I wanted to, I thought, and I don't know if I've actually spoken about this before. So if I have, can one of you just say stop? Because I don't want to repeat it.
Oh, I can say that. That's okay.
But you think, okay, I
can tell you if you.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about, and I know I've spoken about transmissions before, the nature of transmissions, and have I? No. Okay, good. Because today I thought it may be interesting to discuss a transmission, just so that you guys have a clarity around what it means to get a transmission, what the rasa is, and also how it's always been perceived in the past. For example, between a master and a disciple, or a student and a teacher. Because any form of that, in other words, that exchange between a master, well, I don't like the word, like a disciple and a master in those days, or a teacher student, was always regarded as a transmission. But except that the transmission, isn't a study. Because this study isn't in like any other study. It's not a study that can ever be taught. Hi, Kun. So basically what it is it's a transmission which takes place between one heart mind to another heart mind. So when you think about it like that, because, and there's a wonderful quote, and I'm going to repeat this quote because I think this says so much. It says, because wisdom is assumed to be known and to apprehend the qualities or things, it is said to be knowledge. However, absolute truth inherently lacks any phenomenal qualities. Therefore, how is it ever to be known? And that's that, that understanding is where a transmission becomes so important. So the rasa we give isn't our power, which we've said before. And the exchanges that we have with you one-on-one are really just about sharing your stuff with you, and even our stuff with you. But the rasa that we give you is the transmission. It's the heart-mind exchange between two people, or the two of us giving this to you. And so to take it a step further, what then is enlightenment? What does it really mean? And why is it said, and I know this was my experience awakening, that it is the most destructive process known to man. Because everything that you think or you hoped you knew, and every concept, every belief, every bit of knowledge, everything that you've learned has got to be basically thrown out. You have to let it go. You have to surrender. And that surrendering is what enables you to be. And to be is always here now. And we keep on going back to that. So it does sound like we're a broken record. But until you get that, you're always going to be somehow attached to this sense of having to know and having to understand and having to figure it out. And it kind of starts to make awakening seem like it's something that is academic, that you can learn about at school, like mathematics. But this is a subject that requires no learning. It's the absolute opposite. It requires surrendering. And therefore the transmission given in the past between teacher student and now between, with us via the rasa, is to allow this knowledge that you feel you need, and this feeling of understanding that you think is important, basically to self-destruct, so that you're left with just this over here right now. And that's why we give you the rasa, really. So that's my point for the morning. And
can I
yeah,
emphasize something that you just talked about?
of course.
Yeah, the distinction we're making is, in the old days, you had the guru and the disciple. And so the idea, and the people have it now, because they'll talk about, oh, I had this experience with this teacher, or I felt their presence, or whatever. So it is felt that it's something that's sent from the teacher or the guru to the disciple or the student, like person to person. And that gets into all kinds of issues. There's all kinds of confusion and all kinds of issues that arise because of that model. Okay, we wish to bust that model. We wish to bust that paradigm. And instead, what the rasa is a new kind of transmission that has come down that is not us. So you might experience our presence or experience something positive being with us when you have a one-on-one or even right now. But that's not what we're talking about. Sure, that's a factor because we're all human beings here. And certainly love is a factor. But the transmission itself is at what we call 1000, LSC 1000. It's basically, you could call it divine. It's not our personal energy. So that's one thing we want to make very, very clear. And as a result of that, and because anybody who's giving rasa, who's certified to give rasa, is also at 1000, they are pure channels or pure vessels for that pure spiritual energy that we call rasa.
But and the reason being, part of that is because only a person who is really, and you know, I'm going to use the term mastering yourself, but mastering yourself just simply means really that you are self-realized. Because until you're self-realized, you realize the self, there's no way you can give a transmission. You know, because a transmission is something that one self-realized person has to be able to help another person achieve. In the olden days, it was just presence to presence. But what we found with the rasa, that unless, you know, the person is an awakened, self-realized person and has been that for an amount of time, it can't do it. You know, so I really wanted to get that point across to you guys so that you understand that what this is, why it may feel so destructive. Because again, we all live in the West. We are all love to know. You know, we are all addicted to our minds, our knowledge, the things that we make us feel important about ourselves. And that's usually the things we've accumulated, you know, over our lifetimes. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, our knowledge. And therefore, the feeling of surrendering that idea or feeling that you have to let that go is so frightening to a lot of people. And it was frightening for me, and I know for Ramaji it was probably 30 billion times more frightening than it was for me, because he is so intellectual. You know, so for an intellectual person, it's bizarre, but strangely, it doesn't mean you lose it. It just means you can't lose it. It just means it's going to be a more efficient way of being, so that you, as a self-realized person, can use your knowledge intelligently. You know, I call it dropping into the foundation of being, and from that space, you really are able to make decisions, to do what you do according to that knowingness that you are, and that's why it's worth it at the end of the day, even though it seems destructive. So I'll say that much. You know,
one of the word pictures we use is you have a pipe. You know, it could be the plumbing in your house, but you have a pipe, and the pipe has this stuff in it, this sludge, this, you know, gunk, and so basically what the rasa is doing, it's like spiritual Drano. So it's like going through your system, you know, coming down from above, this light, and it goes down through your system and cleans it out. So there's a purification, you know, mental, emotional, sometimes physical, in order for the spiritual to be fully revealed. That spiritual self that you are, or presence, is here all the time. But the conditioning, the beliefs, the limitations, the densities, mentally, emotionally, and physically, can get in the way of the direct experience and the direct perception of what is here right now, of who you are right now.
Before we move on to your comments, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about.
Go for it. Okay,
so now let's talk about nothingness for a while, because nothingness often comes up, and it seems like the most nihilistic word ever and frightening word ever. You know, this idea of nothingness, okay? So I have another quote. And this is a quote from I forget the name of the book, but it's very pertinent to understanding this nothingness, and I think it'll help. And it speaks like this, because anybody who's had a mystical experience, meaning or via meditation, or maybe even through the rasa or some other form or way, and it really doesn't matter whether you have or you haven't, but somewhere along the way you've read about this or you know about this. So I know this is common knowledge, and they often speak about nothingness, meaning no thing, the absolute, meaning it is nothing. Everything just starts with this idea of nothing, which is a synonym really for emptiness, correct? Which is basically saying that there is no distinction really between self and other, because everything is just this nothing, right? I mean, that's kind of how it's understood, okay? So we think that, so it says here that to think that no dust could be gathering because there is nothing for it to gather on is so wrong. Because what you have to understand is, what is this no-thingness, this nothingness? Because it is not nihilistic. It's not really nothing, because it's the myriad of things. It actually is everything. And so when that understanding comes into play, then it becomes everything in its, and I love the word, I used to call the word isness, but then it came to me to use the word suchness, which is another word for isness or beingness. Okay, so let's call it suchness today, is an appearance out of this nothingness, right? Because everything is the manifestation of this emptiness. Okay? And therefore, nothing can gather on it. And that's a really beautiful understanding, if you get it.
Well, you know, sometimes I've heard it called openness, and I kind of like that, because nothingness and emptiness.
And emptiness
like
seems
you say, kind
nihilistic, but it's not. Openness, spaciousness.
It's opportunity. It's opportunity for that openness to, like there's the sky, and then it can condense into a cloud, and we don't go, oh my God, looked at that cloud, it means there's no more sky. No, it's like it's a natural functioning of the sky.
Yeah, and you know, and that's why they say that this isness, the suchness, the beingness is everything, because the highest realization often is thought to be recognizing that everything's nothing's really happening, but that's not true. The highest realization is when you return to life after recognizing the nothingness. That's the return to being, to living. And another beautiful book to read is the Zen Bulls. What's it? The 10 Zen Bulls. Because, and Ramaji, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Maybe we have spoken about the 10 Zen
briefly,
Bulls.
But yeah, I mean, it's on the internet, and it shows up in different books. But
it's a fantastic book. There's one by Osho. It is just beyond. So yes, talk about it.
Yeah. So basically, it's a Zen model. It's a beautiful drawings. I don't know, 1400 AD or something like that in Japan. But what's interesting about it is it starts at the very beginning and goes all the way to the very end of the process of the journey. And it's interesting that number 8 is this perfect circle. It's a perfect circle, and there's nobody there. And so people think, and this is what Ananda was talking about, the perfect nothingness and emptiness. People think that's it. I get there and that's it, right? But that's only number 8. There's 2 more. Okay, so after you've got that, after you realize the nothingness and let go of everything, and now there's just the nothingness, that's not the end. I mean, there are people, lots of people that have gone up in the mountains and lived in caves because they concluded that's it. But in Zen, they're saying that's not it. There's a return back to life. And so the 9th image, and it's all on the internet, you can look this up. It's really fun. It's cool stuff. The 9th image is basically nature, a stream with flowers and, you know, birds and then, so it's return to nature, the natural state, just being yourself. Everything is just being itself. The birds are being themselves. The water is being itself. The flowers are being themselves, etc. So number 10, we see this guy who's been the one, who's been the seeker and the realizer, and now he's in the marketplace. And there's different versions of this drawing, and some are a little more crazy than others. Like some show him with a flask of wine and he's, you know, partying kind of, and others just show him talking, but in the marketplace, you know, maybe doing business, telling jokes, telling stories, having fun, hanging out,
going to a bar, having a beer,
living a very normal, ordinary life.
Yes.
So that you couldn't tell based on his behavior or how he looks or his personality that he knows anything or is anybody special. But it says underneath there, the caption for the drawing showing him having fun in the marketplace with people is, you know, wherever he goes, flowers appear under his feet. So it's spontaneous. So this is the natural state. So when you're living that way, you actually forget about all that other stuff. If we weren't spiritual teachers, we wouldn't even think about it. It would be like, what's for dinner? You know, or I'm going to work. I mean, you know, how's his kid? What are their grades? I mean, you know, because in fact, that is the Buddha nature. This itself, as it is, you know, this is it. You were looking for it. Here it is. But you know, obviously, that doesn't happen overnight. But that is, at least in our experience, yes. Both of us independently arrived at the same conclusion, which is what we're saying. This is it, like it is. Only it's understanding that it is this nothingness, emptiness, openness, divine substance, Buddha nature, Christ nature, God, true self. You know,
suchness, isness, the absolute.
Shiva, Shakti, Kali. I mean, it is
so
that.
many words.
It is that.
And you know, guys, you know, we're speaking in words and concepts again, but all you have to really do is notice yourselves and think about every mystic you've ever known, every realized person. They've lived, they've obtained realization, and then what has happened? Some of them have got cancer and died. Their lives ended. They carried on in their ashram. They didn't grow wings and fly.
Oh, okay. Somebody's asking what it was called. It's the 10 Zen Bulls.
And Osho wrote one copy that I know of called the 10 Zen Bulls, and it's also online.
Yeah, but it's basically a collection of 10 pictures that have commentaries on them. Bulls, like the animal, like an ox. Okay, 10 Zen bulls, like 10 oxes.
Oh, it's an exquisite teaching.
And it's pictures that have commentary, and they're on the internet. And I think Paul Reps it showed up in a book by Paul Reps. Somebody's saying a link, yeah, to Wikipedia, 10 bowls, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, and then like she says, Osho has a book that's a commentary.
Mm-hmm.
But for me personally, the pictures are really what say it all.
Yeah, they really are. Where do you want to go now? I've got more stuff, but you can.
Okay, well, I can segue
Mm-hmm.
into what you were talking about pretty easily with my stuff. So what I've been reflecting on is the limitations in the language of non-duality. So like when we talk about realization, we talk about spaciousness, etc. And I'm like going, well, you know, if you really had experiences of that, you know, to some extent, then I guess you would know what we're talking about. But I thought, why not for a change, kind of start at the very beginning and kind of just very quickly walk you through what a way to approach this is, which is not going to get you stuck in concepts very much. Okay, so here goes. I've never really quite talked about this before, so it's new for me too. You know, basically, so you hear, okay, be spacious, or you hear about spacious aware presence. Okay, you immediately make a concept. It's unavoidable. Because that's what we do. That's what our tendency is to turn whatever we hear into an object, into a mental object, and then try to negotiate with that object. And we've lost the actual experience. So we have talked in the past about resistance. And what we need to understand in order to understand spaciousness or spacious presence, spacious aware presence, is to understand it's not something we're going to create, and understand it's already here right now, because you as spaciousness are already here. That spaciousness is here. You are able to have all the experiences you're having. That's the only reason. If it wasn't here, you couldn't. If it wasn't here, you wouldn't have the awareness that requires having any and all of these experiences, positive, negative, and neutral. So what would be the fundamental understanding you would want to have in order to move towards embracing your natural spaciousness you already have now, that's enabling all of your experiences, your positive, negative, and neutral thoughts, emotions, etc.? It would be to understand that right now, for most of the people listening, there is a war going on inside of you. You are in conflict with yourself. And the tendency is to make this into a subject-object split, and there's an object, and I'm at war with myself. So when you have resistance, you are resisting yourself. So what that means is the way to get to spacious presence is not to think about spacious presence or try to achieve it or imagine it and create more space in your mind. It would be that when there is resistance, you can, and everybody now and then will experience, say, or almost everybody will experience this resistance, right? Allow this resistance. Approve of it. See, the main thing is we bang up against ourselves. We oppose ourselves. We're in conflict with ourselves, with a part of ourselves in any given moment. Whatever is arising, the wave that is arising in the space that is us. There's a wave that's arising. It's going to come and it's going to go. You don't have to try to get rid of it. It's going to come and it's going to go. But how do you live that way? The way you live that way is by recognizing that the act of resistance, judgment, self-criticism, etc., is in fact, that is the mechanism whereby you don't experience your real self. And one of the trickiest parts of this is called the superego, which is that part of yourself that was conditioned by your parents and society to do the right thing. See, we're not ever going to advocate doing the wrong thing. We're going to advocate being loving and kind and compassionate and good and generous and all that. But that doesn't mean you could still have thoughts and emotions that are, selfish or aggressive or whatever. We're saying that's fine. accept and approve of anything that arises in you. That doesn't say anything about the action you take, you know, a constructive action or whatever kind of action you might have to take. We're talking about your internal experience. So when the superego is strong, it can attack. It can go, you're a bad person. You should have done better, you know, and you know, shame you and blame you and humiliate you and condemn you and all of that. And that's in the spirit of, oh, I'm supposed to be a good person. You see, so it's very tricky. So we have to understand when we're saying the way out of this dilemma is to approve of everything. The state is one of approving of everything. Now that doesn't mean, you know, let's say I have a desire to drink, go back to drinking. I was an alcoholic, I stopped drinking, now I'm going to drink again, let's say. And those feelings come up to drink again. Now, if I approve of them, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying go drink. I'm saying don't resist the arising. And if you resist the arising, allow the resistance. Don't resist the resistance. Don't judge the judging. And one other thing I want to mention in relationship to this is let's go on, okay, what could possibly help people understand this better? Because we're using words. We have rasa, but we're having to use words. And what's going on, I realized, is a lot of people are really having basically a two-dimensional experience of their inner space. So anything you can do, which really enhances the subject-object, like I'm watching a TV, a flat screen, right? So it's two-dimensional, it's subject-object. Anything that will enhance a three-dimensional experience of your personal space will help you with this. Will help you with non-duality, will help you with being free within and with your own experience. So, and we had a series of, we called it Awaken Living Embodiment, and we did talk about this, but today, actually this morning, when I was contemplating all this, I had another idea. So I'll share that one. And that is, we've got space all around us all day long. We are so focused on objects, thinking of the objects all the time. So what I'm suggesting to you, if you resonate with it, is wherever you go, you know, it's natural when you're in nature, by the way. If you go out to nature, nature sort of reinforces the experience of space. But wherever you go, when you're in a room, when you're, say, in a big building, or you're on the street, or you're wherever you go, you know, in your car, you know, at home, choose to look at the space. Choose to look at the space between objects. You notice the objects, then look at the space between them, the space between you and an object, between me and the chair, me and another person. Look at all that space. So start thinking in terms of space. Start noticing all that space that's all around you all of the time. There's tons of space. And then you'll start to experience your own subjective state. You go, wait a minute, there's space here too, isn't there? So there's space out there, and there's space in here. And as you, it's really almost more like this non-duality thing is better understood as a work of art, so that you're sensing, appreciating, you know, kind of like paintings and music. You know how you can listen to music and maybe experience space because it's sound and there's still room for space. So you know, instead of like trying to do this or that technique, just go, wow, space is everywhere around me. And actually you start to feel then, I suspect you will feel then there's space in your body, that there's so much space in your body, and even that your body's made out of space. And, you know, between your fingers, there's space. Everywhere there's space. And as you get comfortable with space, you realize space is the support for everything. You know, we're attached to objects, yet space is the support for the objects. And as the teaching says, you begin to understand space, the objects are themselves. Space, as Ananda was saying, space or emptiness or nothingness or openness, that is indeed what they are. But the step to get there is to start to experience the one way to do it is the fact of space here and now. Not something you imagine or create. There's tons of space all around us. And as you begin to enjoy that, and that'll help you relax and open, you breathe, you relax, you open, oh my God, so much space. You know, instead of being caught up in the thoughts and the emotions, you stop, you breathe, you relax, you go, wow. You know, like here, in this room. There's tons of space here. So what if I have a thought or a feeling or this or that, body sensations? Wow, it's happening in all this space.
I have another idea for you guys when it comes to, presence, being present, really. And imagine this. So imagine you sitting by a beautiful stream or on the beach. And basically for a period of time, it doesn't really feel like anything special is happening because you're just in your senses. You're listening to the waves, you're experiencing, you're only sensing. You're hearing the ocean or the stream, you're feeling the grass, whatever that is. It's just you're in your senses. And then what occurs is one begins to start thinking about their problems. They start to feel unsatisfied. The minute you move into that, you're out of your present moment. It's as simple as that. The way back is to go back into your senses. And the funny thing is, that's going back to your foundation. The senses that's the foundation. And you can do it by using one sense. Even if it's just hearing, and stay there. You're back in the present moment. You really are. Because until you become aware of your sensations, you're actually not truly alive. Aliveness is experience, and experience is experiencing the sensation of being. And the mind will fight that. Boy, oh boy, will it fight that. Because we just have such a habit and a tendency to just jump out of the ordinariness of just this.
The mind wants to take beingness and make a concept out of it. And then once it has a concept of beingness, then it can try to, do something with that, manipulate it, have more of it, whatever. Okay, what's actually going on right now is beingness. The senses, the five senses, and I like what Ananda said, you could choose a sense, hearing, seeing. I was talking about spaciousness, that's basically visual. Touching, any kind of touching, including your own face or body, smelling, tasting, the five senses. Have you noticed that your senses operate fine without you thinking? Have you noticed that seeing is just seeing, and hearing is just hearing, and touching is just touching, until the mind comes in and then interprets it, labels it, and owns it, and then says it's this. But if actually you are in the five senses, like your favorite cat or dog, you're in Buddha nature. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verses 8 and 9, which is my favorite spiritual quote, Krishna at the very end says, he gives some definitions for being awakened, and then he says, or you can just think of it as the senses interact with the sense objects, period.
Yeah, but you've got to understand that the only reason life seems unsatisfactory,
beyond simple,
unsatisfactory, for most people, is because they're absent from the actual experience. And the minute you're absent from your experience, it's going to be unsatisfactory. But but then what happens is you develop what I call the foundation. And then you start, and we spoke about this the last time, it's the noticing when you're climbing out of it, and that you start to notice, aha, I've gone into a story, or I've gone into here, I've gone into there, and you simply come back to those sensations. And that becomes more and more habitual, to the point where you just start to notice more and more how extraordinary this moment, this experience is. Because, even biblically, biblically there's a word, and the word is to sin. And the word to sin, biblically, some people think is that you have to do something wrong. In other words, like killing or murdering, but that's not the Aramaic meaning of the word sin. The Aramaic meaning in the Bible, Genesis, is to miss. And to miss is the sin, because you're missing your now. You've eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is the mind, and you're missing what's going on right now in your present experience. And that's what it means. But don't worry, because this, let me say this much. I truly believe that this what's going on now with this understanding, and I've seen it. I mean, I got something from Andrew yesterday. You know, he wrote, he did a video for us, and he has just recently reached 1,000, and he's becoming more and more stabilized. And in the way he expressed it, he said, I have never been, I don't know really how to express this or say it. He said, but I've never felt more gratitude. And he said, but the gratitude is just because I'm in my now. I'm able as a father to be present with my children, whether they're having a tantrum or whether they're happy. I'm just in my now. You know, this sudden recognition that you're in your senses, in your now, in your experience, becomes the most important place and the only one place you really want to be. You see, once you've had a taste of it, you see, it just takes a taste. And then it really doesn't matter what your mind thinks and the knowledge and all the BS. It really doesn't. So where we lead you through via rasa, via the transmission, you know, via whatever words we use, which, you know, concepts we use, into this very basic knowingness of this always here, so that you don't miss your lives and you are in your experience. And it's that simple. And it's been said from the minute go by every mystic, every Bible, and every teacher. And that's the funny thing.
But if you're not, if that's not coming to you, okay, it is that simple. But if it's not coming to you, okay, it's not, you don't need to acquire it.
You can't effort.
This isn't something you're going to acquire or gain. It's already here. So what does that mean? That means you're doing something to obscure it. You're already doing too much. It's not so much like you're not in the experience. It's like you're too much in the experience. You're here in such a way as to draw attention to yourself. So, and the way we draw attention to ourselves is by creating a drama out of the arising of conflict or the arising of resistance. So if you resist your resistance, it will continue. What you resist will persist. I mean, today, that's what I have to say. I have to hammer away at that. That's the fundamental scene. You know, the non-dual language is so fancy. It's so beautiful. It's so elegant. It's so intellectual. Go, yeah, you know, that's it. You know, pure awareness, spacious being. Yeah, I want that. And then you're like upset about what somebody said to you, or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your kid or your job. And you're like, what happened to all that, you know, spacious presence I had just a minute ago? Guess what? It didn't go anywhere.
Nothing happened to it. You happened to it.
That's what we're talking about.
Your mind happened to it.
What we're talking about seeing is that's okay, you see, because that's a wave in your ocean. That's a wave in your ocean. And how can you, so the then question is not how can I have or acquire spacious presence, spacious aware presence. It's already here. That's how I know I'm upset. That's how I know I'm bothered. That's how I know I'm mad or irritated or sad. That's how I know, because spacious awareness presence is fully operational here and now in this moment with this experience. So how can I have a deeper experience of my presence? It is by fully accepting, approving, and not resisting what is arising, not judging it. And if you do judge or you do resist, and don't judge the judgment and don't resist the resistance, see this. See that this is the fundamental mechanism for perpetuating your inner separation and thus your inner suffering.
There's a lovely little story about a fish. We like fish swimming around in the ocean. And basically what we're doing is swimming around looking for the ocean. And we're asking about the meaning of life, not recognizing
Where's the
that
water?
all along we're in the actual water. And not only are we in the water, but we are the ocean itself. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's, you know, and so you slowly start to get that your experience is that. Just the way it is. You are already in the ocean. You're the fish swimming in the ocean. You don't need to look for it. You've been there all along.
But, you know, there are mechanisms that are creating the experience of separation from that, or creating the experience that the presence, the awareness, the spaciousness is not here. You know, and
the mind is the mechanism that does
well, the mind is the mechanism, but there are actual things that people are doing in the moment, and you can be aware of that, and when you're aware of it, you can relax it and let it go. You know, anytime you're experiencing any kind of conflict, anything you don't want to experience, or you think you shouldn't experience, okay, what do you do with that? How do you relate to it? Can you be accepting of it and approving of it? And if not, if you can't embrace it, then recognize that and then embrace that. In other words, don't resist the resistance. Okay, I think I've hammered away at that point enough. But
yeah. Are there any questions?
Yeah, let's have questions.
Yeah, so David has his hand up. I'll just unmute you, David. Go ahead.
Hi, David.
Hey, David.
Hi. I just have one question and a couple comments. I'll start with the question. With the rasa giver, does the rasa flow through the rasa giver, or does it bypass the rasa giver? And is the rasa giver simply an activator of the transmission? Just simply because in my own way of thinking, something that would bypass the giver, you know, somebody that would have the consciousness to be able to activate the transmission is good. But from what I've known, most so-called dikshas and so forth usually come through the giver.
Well, it's not bypassing the giver, it's coming down on both. There's no bypassing at all. It's like a rain that comes down on both the person giving and the person receiving. We're receiving it too. Anytime we or any other rasa giver give rasa, we get it too. You can think of it, it's an analogy, but it also, some people experience it this way. It's literally like a rain of blessings coming down.
But I think,
Okay, so it's like two shower heads on,
it's one shower head. It's like we're both out in the rain together.
But David, to answer your question, no, we're not transmitting anything of ours. We are activating it.
Okay.
Okay, we are
Because
activating.
I consider that to be an improvement.
I think that was your question. Your question was,
Yes.
is it coming through us into you in some way, shape, or form? The answer is no.
Okay.
The
Because
answer
I just
is you are
consider
activating what you already have within
We're
you.
in a position to activate it by being at 1,000, but it doesn't go through us to the person. That's a very important point, and I'm really glad you asked that, because that's definitely one of the things we wanted to make clear today.
That's where I was going with transmission, you know,
exactly.
in the very beginning, is to say to you guys that you know, calling us like bridges, activists, we activating what you already are.
Yeah, but it literally, you know, comes down,
and then it comes down. So when you are receiving the rasa, the giver and the receiver both receive the rasa. That's why it's so blissful to be a rasa giver.
So to use your analogy, the rasa giver turns on the shower head, like one of those really big shower heads.
Basically, and then it's like,
it's big enough for two people. So the rasa giver turns on the shower head, and then the rain comes down, or the shower comes down on both, and then it's time to turn it off, and so the rasa giver turns it off. But it's a blessing, you know. As the story goes, it showed up in 2011 as a spiritual blessing, and it's continued since then.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that.
Sure.
I did want to share an observation, and that is quite often I've noticed that and I didn't know if it was my imagination or just what, but it seems like it's by intention that you do it, because I've noticed I'll start to feel the rasa transmission before you actually start moving your hands, just in the moments leading up to it. And even before you do this, you know, in the seconds before you do that, it's as if as soon as you start thinking about it, I start to, maybe not the full force, but it's as if I don't know why, but
Many other people have reported that.
I get that a lot. Sometimes I get it the minute someone starts in a session, they start to feel they're getting the rasa. Isn't it strange? I know that even Wayne, you know, Wayne, I shared the song with Wayne that I use when I give the rasa, because I like to get out the way. And the way I get out the way is I use a song, you know, so that I'm giving and he's been getting very blissy from that song, right, Wayne? Really enjoying the whatever, you know. So yeah, it's amazing. It is. It's really an amazing thing that happens.
Okay. And the other observation I wanted to make was about satsangs in general. You know, some of the things you say are helpful to me, but I've over the years become more and more skeptical of the ability of the intellect to do much with it. And you've said that yourselves.
Mm-hmm. Good. It's the best thing you've said today.
Yeah, I do remember there were a couple observations I wanted to make. One was I once went to a workshop where the guru had a gibberish meditation where he would play this recording. It had all these random sounds, but they were all mixed together, so there was never a coherent syllable really in it. It was just all this noise. It was supposed to help you bypass the mind.
That's actually
I
quite
thought it was pretty funny, but it worked.
Yes.
And at least as far as transcending the mind, at least for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing, I remember a few years ago with the oneness blessing, when some advanced oneness blessings became available, there were some awakened oneness blessing givers. What the leader of oneness said was that what would make the blessing more powerful was if the blessing giver would speak to people before giving the blessing, because it helped create a human connection. It wasn't so much what they said, it was that there was a connection. And then they would give the blessing, and that blessing would be more powerful than if they just popped in and did the blessing, which makes me think the mini sessions, the Skype mini sessions, I think are an improvement over the photo rasa.
Oh, we're not doing those anymore.
Yeah, thanks. Yes.
Yeah.
And this was part of it. It was just an intuition. We're not actually students of oneness. I didn't even know about it until long after.
Yeah. I generally leave out other movements and stuff, but I thought I'd bring it up because I thought it was an interesting thing.
Oh, absolutely.
I completely
A lot
agree.
of people know about oneness and Diksha, and quite a number of people were involved in it prior to finding rasa. So it's all good. But there was an intuition on our part about the same thing, that talking, whether it's the satsang now or, you know, a full session one-on-one, or just these mini sessions you're referring to, which are half an hour, so they're only 15 minutes of talking and 15 minutes of rasa. Yes, we just intuitively felt that 15 minutes of talking is important. It's almost like, you know, you could have lightning in the sky, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what does it take for the lightning to strike the ground, the earth, right? We're going to have something connecting at the earth level or at the human level, and then it can come all the way down into this dimension. So the talking, the sharing, the connecting,
Right.
somehow is part of making this human. Sure, the divine's always going to be the divine, right? But
Right.
how do we get that divine into the human bottle, the lightning, divine lightning into the human bottle? It's got to be a human interaction helps. But
It
that's a very
helps.
good point.
It is.
Yes.
However, I will say that it's not to say that for example, if I know that a person that I love is not well and they are having a surgery and they are not able to meet with me face to face, then I will do a picture rasa for them. And sometimes when a person is just filled with resistance, a good time to give them the rasa is when they're sleeping. Because there's no resistance when you sleep.
We do that sometimes, and it does work. So but in general, the optimal condition is
the optimal is always to have a little bit of connection.
Let's be human first.
Right.
Together. Yeah, great point. Thank you so much.
That's really good points, David.
Yeah, really good stuff.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, hi, this is Subra.
Hi, Subra.
My questions are more around, a bit of confusion or dilemma that I have. There are times when I can see, so to speak, everything in me. I can see that spatialness. I can see my body as a bundle of sensations in my consciousness, right? So I can see that, but those are few and far in between. More often than not, I get sucked into the real life, my self-importance, the ego, all of that pops up. And, the way I can describe it is sometimes I'm on the bank of the river watching the flow, and sometimes I'm getting swept into the flow, right? So it's always this going back and forth. How do I stay established in one? And where also the confusion comes for me, especially when I'm in my Subra ego mode, is when you talk about the self-destructiveness and so on, I haven't experienced anything. So, well, that's a concept when I hear that. So how can I be sure that what you are talking about as your experience is what I'm experiencing or not? So there's the doubt that always pops up. Sometimes I'm sure, I'm confident, yes, I have seen that, I know what it is, I have tasted it, but sometimes there is the doubt.
Well, to use your analogy, your image of the river or watching the river, okay, I'll speak for myself. Okay, my teaching in your case, and it is an individual thing because people are different. My advice in your case is jump into the river. You're so damn busy avoiding the river. You need to jump into it. Don't be so scared of it. You got to jump in and live. Don't worry about being swept away. Be swept away. That's what you need to do. Stop being the observer. Stop holding back. You see, there's a judgment there.
What you're doing is you're separating your experience. So in other words,
Yourself
you're having
from your experience.
what you're doing is you're separating yourself from the actual experience you're having. So you're having an experience, and then you're going into your mind and you're judging the experience you're having, and the mind is the doubt. So when you notice that you're doing that, the minute you have any doubt, the minute there's discontent, the minute there's a problem, your mind's come in. Simply bring yourself back to that foundation of being. Go back to your senses. Listen, be carry
the flow.
on.
The one that is separate from the flow is the mind. That's the whole point. The flow is the flow is the flow. It keeps flowing. That's the point. You see, watching a river, the river is life itself. It's an automatic, endless flow. So jump into the river of life. You see, it's very misleading to people. For some people, the whole be the observer, be the witness works. But for most people, it doesn't work.
Because it doesn't make sense.
It gives them a place like they're in a castle, and then they can watch everything, and then they think I'm better off. And I'm detached, but guess what? You're detached from life now, and that's not actually a great place to be. So it's much better. Again, we're not, if you're all bank robbers, we're not advocating you just jump into the flow of your experience, right? We're talking to high quality, high character people here who are good people and do the right thing usually, okay? We all have good hearts, we're good people. So when we say jump into the river of life, we're assuming you're a good person. So jump in and then experience, you see? Be so immersed in experience that you cannot help but give into it and let go. You see, it's maybe contrary to what you said, what you've heard before.
Yeah, and believe it or not, that foundation is adequate. And that's where you'll get right action from, right thinking from, kind of creativity.
Trust.
It trust in that force of life without trying to figure it out. You see, the mind wants to figure it out. You're trying to figure out what being awake means when you are awake.
Okay.
That's awake.
Yes.
That's it. Don't think about it. That's it. The experience, the sensation, the moment, the intensity, that you cannot run away from this intensity. You can't run away from it. You see, stop running. Anybody on the call, stop running. This is it now.
Let it be ordinary.
The ordinary. This is very ordinary.
Yeah, let it be ordinary. Just allow it to be ordinary and notice.
But see you're running away. See your judgment. See your rejection. See your resistance. The problem is not the experience you're having. The problem is not the content, no matter what it is, positive, negative, or neutral. That's not the problem. Okay, the problem is how you're relating to it. And we generally advise both of us, go into it. Go into it. Go into your experience. Greet it. Greet your jealousy. Greet your fear. Greet your anxiety. Embrace it. Go into it.
Sensations.
Experience it as sensations. Every emotion you have, even every thought you have, has body sensations associated with it. Do you know that? Are you experiencing them? That is part of being here now. Being present isn't just a concept. It means you're feeling the body, this body, in relationship to the experience that's arising. The body is a big part of it. Without it, would you be having these experiences? No, you wouldn't.
The experience itself, without the thought, is the end of the separation. Because then there is no more subject and object. There is just this, and then this.
Right there. That's it.
Yep.
That intensity of sensation, yeah, go ahead.
No, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Super.
You're welcome.
We hope
you're
we
very
help.
Welcome. I think you got something out of that.
Yes, I did.
Okay, thanks, Super. Yeah, and this is fun, you see. High energy. Jumping in the fire, never going to be bored. You'll never be bored dancing in the fire.
I like being bored sometimes.
Well, yeah. Okay, anybody else? So we have a chat thing. Well, Kritz.
Oh my God, Kritz.
Of course you're confused. And Kritz is symbolic. So confused, it's not a concept. Okay,
be confused. Feel what is confusion.
What's wrong with
like?
confusion?
What
you
is
see,
the
that's
sensation?
what we're saying. What? There's nothing wrong with anything. There's nothing wrong with confusion. See, why is that bad? We don't think it's bad, and so when we're confused, we're okay. We're fine.
I'm just confused.
And the confusion shows up, and the confusion leaves. But if you make an object out of the confusion that you're in conflict with, remember what I was talking about: the war within, the conflict, the resistance. Judgment, that's what you're talking about right now.
Confusion is just a feeling.
Confusion is just a state, one more state that's going to come and go. But you're just not intellectual knowledge where you apply that to then go, okay, I have confusion. I know it's only a state that's going to come and go. No, it's recognizing that because that in your experience of having confusion, you are making a problem out of it by resisting it. That's the thing to understand. There's a glue you're creating by resisting. People, not just Kritzer or anybody else on this call, people all over the world think they can get rid of things by resisting them. You don't get rid of them.
No, and he thinks he's going to get rid of them.
Make them persist.
You think you're going to figure this out, Kritz? I've told you what to do, but you're not doing what I say. Yeah. You're not getting out there and living your life, are you? Having any experiences? You're still sitting in your chair moaning.
Even if he doesn't, though, even if he's moaning or whatever's going on, you see, accept and approve of that. See, where there is no problem unless you make it a problem.
No, you're telling me things, and if I don't do them, you scold me. It's not about that. It's if I don't feel like doing it, why
Then don't do it.
I don't do it. I'm not doing it.
But then don't complain about it, Kritz.
We're fundamentally.
I didn't complain about it. I said I'm confused. I don't understand what you're talking about, and you make this comment like, "Oh, Kritzer again."
Everything is okay.
Sorry, I'm really pissed about this now.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So
Good.
Yeah.
What does pissed feel
so
like?
be pissed.
But it's not that you tell me, okay, we told you what you should do, and you're not doing it. It's about, I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do.
The point is,
be bored. I don't know what to do.
the doing was a recommendation.
So what does it mean? I don't know what it means to go out and live my life. I don't know.
Kritz, don't forget about that. Okay, if it's
Then
not.
don't.
But you just told me, we told you what to do and you're not doing it. I mean, I'm not a little stupid.
Kritz, we've given you recommendations after recommendation after recommendation. That's all we can do.
That's all that was.
You know, we're trying to give you ideas. We're trying to give you a
You're
way
missing
for you to.
Yeah, but don't tell me I'm wrong.
Okay, I'm
You
sorry.
give me the feeling like, oh, I didn't do it. I mean, come on.
Okay, let me talk to you.
Okay, Kritz. I didn't mean
Kritzer. My name is Kritzer.
Kritzer. I didn't mean to offend you, Kritzer.
You did. You did. Very much.
Okay.
Not the
I
first
did.
time. Sorry.
Okay. I'm sorry. I've offended you. I didn't mean to offend you. I want to help you, Kritzer.
Yeah, this is not going to help me.
I
Behaving
recognize
like this
that
is not going to help me. You're always telling me you're not doing it well, you're not doing it good, you're doing the wrong thing. I told you what to do. This is not going to help me. I'm trying this for 20 years now.
Let me.
It's not the first time to telling me this. I don't know how to do this.
Okay.
And I'm here because I'm desperate. I'm not here because I don't have other things to do.
Kritzer, talk to me now for a moment. Okay, what I have been saying in this call over and over and over again isn't about what you go out and do in the world. It is about in the moment, whatever is arising in you, whatever your state, whatever your experience, it is to accept it, approve of it, and allow it. If you're not able to do that, then notice what you are doing, which is you're rejecting it, you're resisting it, you're judging it, you're condemning it. And ultimately, that's a judging, resisting, and condemning of yourself. That's what you want to see. That's what my fundamental recommendation to you is to see that.
But we've said this to you.
Well,
Kritzer.
but that is, you can do that right now in this second. Whether you're confused or not, you can recognize what is your relationship to what's arising in you right now. So what is it? What is your relationship to what's arising in you right now? How do you feel about it?
If I have a thought, whatever it is,
don't make something up. You're now experience. You were pissed off. Are you still pissed off?
I'm very angry.
Okay.
I'm very angry. I completely feel I don't feel understood.
What is your relationship to your anger in you?
I try not to act it out because I don't want to hurt anybody.
Well, that's actions, and we're not talking about actions. We're talking about what is your relationship to the experience of the arising of anger. How are you relating to it right now? Not the actions. They're not happening right now. You're talking. That's all you're doing right now is talking, and you're feeling anger. What is your relationship to this anger right now in this moment?
I don't understand what you mean.
Are you accepting of it? Are you approving of it? Are you celebrating it?
Are you resisting it?
Or are you resisting it, judging it, condemning it, rejecting it?
No, I think it's not okay what I'm doing or what I'm...
That's our point.
That's resistance.
That is the resistance.
Yeah, I know that it's a resistance, but it's my conditioning maybe. And I've tried, I tried it for 20 years and it's not working. It is not working. I can approve of it all the time, but it's not working.
We're not asking you to...
After it's coming back. My mind is telling me all the time it's not okay.
Kritzer, if you approve of it, then it's not going to come back in the same way. So you didn't actually really approve of it.
Yeah. So maybe it's I don't do it right.
Do
Yeah.
you have a better idea? Do you have a better suggestion? If you have anger showing up, do you think fighting with the anger will make it better?
No, I know this. Theoretically, I understand it, but the approval does not, for some reason, doesn't work for me. I don't know why.
It's because it's still not approval, Kritzer. Let's be very logical here. Okay, you have a couple of choices with the arising, a negative or painful or uncomfortable arising like anger. Okay, you can resist it and fight it. You can continue the inner war, the inner conflict. Well, we know that logically, obviously, that doesn't work. Another option is to try to ignore it and pretend it's not there. And a lot of people do that. Okay, but that doesn't work either. So, you know, there's you know, fighting with it, or there's trying to ignore it. And then the other option would be to approve of it, to like it, to find something about it that you like. So maybe Fritzi, you can't approve of your anger. Okay, I accept that. But what is there anything about your anger that you could approve of? For example, your anger is perhaps arising in you as a show of strength, or that you're protecting yourself, or that you're defining your identity and holding your space. There are a lot of good, positive, constructive things about anger. So take a moment right now, Kritzer, and just reflect on, okay, is there anything about anger or my anger that I can approve of? Even if I don't approve of all of it, is there anything about being angry, of anger, that I can approve of, that I can say, okay, I think that's a good thing?
Maybe you could, you
could
go to the gym.
No, let him, I want him to take a moment. Kritz, I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, is there anything about anger that I can approve of, that I can, you know, feel good about? Just any aspect of it.
Yeah.
Okay, what is it?
I'm showing you my opinion. I mean, I'm showing you what I think. I mean,
you're being strong, right? You're showing strength, or showing that you're an independent thinker, independent person, being yourself.
At least I show you that I don't approve of what was told.
Okay. All right. So, well, what's the good thing about that? To show that you're an independent thinker, that you're your own person, or what is the positive value of that for you?
Not to go with the masses, to tell really what I think, or what I think about it. Yeah.
Well, neither one of us goes with the masses. We're very much into thinking for ourselves. We totally approve of that. Okay, so what do we got? Well, now we've got, let's see, what do we have so far about anger that's good? We've got
showing my opinion.
Strong, showing you're an independent thinker, speaking on the behalf of others to reinforce them being independent. There's something else. Okay, so that's 3 or 4 things about anger that are good. Can you approve of those things right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just asking you to make a choice to find something in your experience now that you can approve of. Now, when you approve of that, you know, aspect of your experience, what happens to you? What do you experience then in yourself?
I'm okay.
You're okay. Okay, that's excellent. That's really good. Now, the situation is exactly the way it was before. We're here, you're there. We don't necessarily agree, but it's okay. It's okay with me. It's okay with her. And it's okay with you. So what happened? What changed?
Agree to disagree.
Well, what changed is you found something in this experience you're having that you could approve of. Not necessarily the whole thing, but you found a piece, a chunk that you could approve of. Now, since this worked for you, Kritzer, I recommend that you do this in the future. Anytime you're having an experience of being stuck, frustrated, things aren't, you know, disapproval thing doesn't work, et cetera, I've got a story about it, whatever. Just in the experience itself, whatever it is. You know, like for example, we say you have a story. Okay, well, you're always being told, don't have a story, get rid of your story. No, guess what? Stories can be very useful. Stories are needed, okay, to be a human being, okay? So when you're having that story thing going on about the last 20 years, okay, find something positive about that. Okay, that means I respect the past, I want to learn from my lessons, means I'm a responsible person. It's whatever you find. You see, you can always find something that you can approve of in your now experience. Might not be the whole thing, but you can find a piece that you can approve of. Does that make sense to you? Okay.
Yes. Still, I have the thought that my behavior offended you or the other people, the other members here, or Ananda, and that doesn't give me a good feeling.
Right.
Because this is not how you should behave.
Right, and this is the superego I was bringing up. Okay, now let's one more time. Let's look at that. Okay, what's good about that? There was another way to talk about approval is just say, insist that you find something good about that. Okay, so what's good about that?
It was necessary to express myself.
Right.
Had to come out.
Yes. And the way you explained it, actually, I had a couple of ideas when you said it that I said, yeah, I agree with that, actually. So yeah, so in the interest of time, let me just say, for you personally, the path right now would be, can I find something good about the experience I'm having right now? In other words, something good, something I can approve of. Just a piece of it, not the whole thing. And then notice what happens. Notice that there will be a greater degree of okayness. Okay, you won't be so upset. Okay, and this will help you understand the nature of your frustration and your upsetness. Okay, is that good enough for today?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for working with this. I actually feel this is a kind of a mini breakthrough for you. I think it really is, so that means it's a really super good thing that you spoke up.
Okay.
See what I mean? Super good. Okay, thanks, Kritzer. Thank
you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's see what we got in the chat here.
Any other questions?
Can't see anybody at the minute.
Yeah, anger is an issue for a lot of people. We've got several comments here. Anger is a big one. Okay, so yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Amy, did somebody else want to ask something?
No, I was just saying there's nobody on the list for the moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This is Subra again. So, well, first of all, thank you to Kritzer and you all for that very enlightening discussion. I think it was useful not just for Kritzer, but for all of us, because we all have that same dilemma of to accept, reject, what does it mean, etc. So you talked about trying to find something good in an experience. Let's say when I get angry, should I try to find something good, or should I say, I'm feeling anger, so let me embrace it and embrace the anger. I'm saying that is me and accept it truly.
If you could do that,
great to be angry.
Personally, I don't do that. I don't like to feel anger at all. In fact, I very rarely do.
Okay.
I don't, and when I do feel anger, I don't like the feeling. So, I really work on correcting it. I believe I believe in restriction. There's a time and a place to have a discussion. And there's, I believe it's very important to take into account another person's feelings and behave accordingly. And I do believe that as you awaken, the sense of dealing with yourself all along, and it is an integration, you start to behave differently. You're not too quick to unleash your shit on other people, blame other people for your feelings. It does change. But at the same time, you're totally allowed to speak your mind, but there is a way. There is a nice way, and there is a way that's not so nice, and there is a choice you make at any given point. So I do believe in not resistance, but in restriction. And that's just me. But then I come from a Kabbalistic background. So I'm used to restricting my.
Well, let's be clear though. I mean, as I understand it, you're talking about restriction in terms of the external expression.
Correct.
Okay, you're not talking about restriction. So the paradox here internally, the paradox here, Subra, in answer to your question about you, which I think is a great question, is we're not talking about restricting the inner experience.
Right.
It's not about resisting it. I am talking about not the inner experience, the outer way of expressing it. Yes.
Yeah. So whether it would be, so for most people, okay, and I think for you, Subra, it would be basically along the lines of what we said to Kritzer, which is, can you find something good? Find something good about this experience you're having, okay? Or if you can, move towards it and into it in order to get to know it, in order to be friendly with it and embrace it. And, you know, we're not talking about going into it, getting totally overwhelmed and caught up in it, and then going around and creating a big chaos with people. We're saying go into it in order to know it and in order to experience the spaciousness of the anger when it's arising. So it's not about action afterwards. Yes, we totally agree. Be a good person. Don't hurt people. Say nice things. Absolutely. What we're talking about is an inner yoga. We're talking about the meditation on anger, which means if you distance yourself, if you push the anger away, condemn it, etc., that tends to make things worse. So what will make things better? We're already angry. What will make things better is to find something you can approve about it, that you can say is good about it, approve of it, or move into it, embrace it. The reason for that is that's a non-resistance, in which case the anger will actually then start to dissipate. If you fight it and resist it, that will increase the anger. Yep. Does this make sense?
Just the resistance. Don't resist.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but anger is a tough one for everybody, just about everybody. So don't feel bad about it. It's a tough one, a real challenge. Thanks for that. Super. Okay, anybody else? Now, let's see, we're
finished.
We're going an hour and a half, then we actually went over with the talking.
Sorry, Amy. We're going to do the rasa now for everybody.
Yeah, we need to do the rasa now. So
how's that? Everybody go to the men's room, ladies' room. We kept you talking
for
way too long.
I'll go do it now, myself. Oh, shoot. Okay, so if you can, if you're one of the people that doesn't show your image, thank you. You guys are back on. Thanks so much. So today, since we ran over, it'll be only 15 minutes. So 15 minutes in silence with eyes closed. Okay, so
Enjoy.
here we go.
Thank you, everybody. That was your rasa. We love you all. Have the most beautiful, beautiful weekend. Have lots and lots of fun. Be yourselves and enjoy. And thank you for being with us here today.